Welcome each and everyone. I'm gonna show you how to make a delicious, simple and easy honey garlic pork ribs recipe. And this recipe you can make for your whole entire family. My name is Chef Andre Henry and you're watching Chef Henry Kitchen. Open your cupboard and your fridge, grab your ingredients and let's make this recipe. I'm gonna go over all the ingredients. I'm using 3 pounds of pork ribs, and I already wash and clean off all the fat from the pork ribs. And if you want to see how I wash meat inside the kitchen, you can go check out one of my videos that I already posted. 6 tablespoons of honey, 1 onion, but I'm gonna use half of this size onion. 6 cloves of garlic, green onion / scallion, and I already mixed out the seasoning, and I'm going to tell you what's inside the seasoning. 1 tablespoon of meat seasoning, a tablespoon of all-purpose seasoning, and a tablespoon garlic powder. And last but not least, I'm going to add browning for coloring. Now I'm going to make the marinade sauce to season and coat the pork ribs. Into the blender, I always use a small amount of water to make the blending go smooth. Half a onion, and the green onion. I'm just gonna add them straight into the blender. And also, I'm gonna add some of the water inside the honey so I can get most of the honey out of the measuring cup. All of the garlics. Now for the honey. So I'm just gonna pour. And I get most of the honey. Now for browning. And this is my concept of adding browning. We're just using it for coloring. You don't want to add too much. I've been using browning for a long time, so I can just judge the browning. And you can use any brand of browning. I'm gonna add the seasoning. And you notice I mix up the seasoning, so I added some and I leave back half of the amount. So I'm gonna close the blender. I'm gonna start blend. Now that the blending is complete, this is what the marinade sauce look like. I'm gonna add the marinade sauce to the pork ribs, but first I have to cut up the pork ribs, make it in bite-sized pieces. So I already cut down the middle, so now it's just time to separate the pieces. I have a Ziploc bag. I'm gonna open it. I am going to get gloves on. Now I have gloves on. While I'm cutting up the pork ribs, I'm gonna add it straight into the Ziploc bag. So we're gonna cut it into the joint. You wanna cut them up just like this. I'm going to remove one of the gloves. I finished cut up the pork ribs and I add it into the Ziploc bag. And I remove both of my gloves. Now I'm going to add my blend up seasoning. And I can smell the honey and garlic. And this is easier way to season stuff. I'm gonna seal the bag. And this is the way you seal the bag to make it airtight. So we're gonna start closing. just to right about there. You're just gonna press. Then with your finger, you just go like this. Nice. It'll be sealed. I'm gonna place this in my freezer and let it soak in all of that amazing flavor straight throughout the pork ribs. So guys, I will see you when I'm frying up the pork ribs. I remove the pork ribs from the freezer and I let it thaw. I let it marinate for 24 hours. And this is what it look like. So it's well seasoned. I'm gonna go through the rest of ingredients. I'm gonna be using more honey because I'm gonna make honey garlic sauce, 4 cloves of garlic. I have the pot under the stove and I'm gonna fry it up in front of you guys. I'm gonna add some cooking oil into the pot, just enough to cover the bottom of the pot. And I'm gonna turn the stove on and I'm gonna leave it at the highest settings to let the oil hot. And while I'm waiting on the oil, I'm going to cut up my garlic. You want to chop up the garlic as fine as possible. Now I finish mincing up the garlic. I'm gonna add it back into the container. Now that the oil is hot, it's time to add the pork ribs pieces into the oil. You want to fit as much as you can fit into the pot. You want them to fry and get golden brown. I can start removing the pork ribs pieces from the pot. I added paper towel into this bowl. You want them to get good color like this. I let them fry for 15 minutes. Now I'm gonna add the rest and I'm gonna do the same thing. So I leave back the seasoning that I blend up to marinate. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna cook it up when I'm making the sauce. So I'm gonna repeat the process and let these fry up for 15 minutes. Now the second batch of pork ribs is finished frying. And this is what they look like, nicely colored. I'm gonna shut the stove off. I added the pot onto the stove and I'm gonna turn my stove on. I saved some of the oil. I'm gonna add a small amount, just enough to fry up the garlic. So I'm gonna let the oil heat up. Now the oil is hot. Now I'm gonna add the minced garlic. Now I'm gonna add the leftover sauce. I have water into this bowl. I'm gonna add some into the pot. I love the smell of garlic. And the rest of water, I'm just gonna add it into the honey. And this is 4 tablespoons of honey. I'm gonna let it boil before I do a taste. Now I'm gonna do a taste, and I always use a spoon. I'm telling you, I just need the sauce to boil down, and it's the right flavor. I added half a teaspoon of cornstarch into this bowl, and I'm gonna add just a tip of browning. I'm gonna add some water into the cornstarch, and I'm gonna use a fork to mix it. And this is what you want the color to look like. And add it straight into the sauce. Now I'm gonna start mixing. You have to keep on stirring it. As you can see, it started to thicken. I'm gonna add the pork ribs into the sauce. And I'm gonna start mixing the pork ribs into the sauce. I'm gonna place the cover on and let it simmer for 2 minutes. Now I'm gonna check on the pork ribs. I'm gonna shut the stove off. I will see you all for the taste test. Now I have my pork ribs on a plate, and this is finger food. If you have people over, this is a nice way to entertain visitors, and also all your family member that's like to just grab a bite. So I'm gonna go in for the taste test, and this is what the pork ribs look like. Oh my god, guys, I have to wipe my mouth off before I talk. As you can see, I'm full of excitement. You want and you want. Guys, just take a look again. Go and make this and come back in the comment section. After following everything demonstrated in this recipe, you will have amazing, flavorful pork ribs. Guys, go make it and see you on the next one.